Well, if it isn't another fine mess we've sketched ourselves into, do you think modern medicine is a horror show? Ha! Wait till you see these 9 terrifying tools that'll make you question the very notion of human progress. From cranial carpentry to reproductive nightmares, we're delving into the gruesome world of antiquated healthcare. By the end, you'll be sending your doctor a gift basket or running for the hills. Stick around for number 3. It's a real tongue twister that'll leave you speechless, literally, because in my extensive experience, which is quite extensive indeed, humanity's capacity for absurdity remains the only constant across time. Kicking off our parade of pain at number 9, it's the device that put the ouch in pouch and the no in nocturnal emissions. This 19th century gem was all the rage in Victorian times when even thinking about your nether regions was considered a cardinal sin. The spermateria ring was designed to prevent nocturnal enthusiasm and public embarrassment. Just slip it on and let those sharp teeth do their job. If you stayed as flaccid as Victorian morals, no problem, but any sign of excitement, and chomp. It's like a chastity belt for your trouser snake. A rather extreme form of birth control, if you ask me. Thankfully, this trend died out faster than you can say, ouch, my family jewels. History doesn't repeat itself, but it does rhyme, usually in limericks about painful nether regions. At number 8, we're diving into the deep end of bad ideas with Lawson's vaginal washer. This early 20th century contraption proves that sometimes newer isn't better, it's just newer ways to be invasive. This gadget would pump water into the vagina, then using rotating squeegees to clean it out. Because nothing says fresh and clean like internal power washing. Of course, anyone with a basic knowledge of anatomy knows that vaginas are self-cleaning. This device was more likely to cause harm than good. I suppose Lawson thought douche was French for ouch. It's a prime example of men thinking they know better about women's bodies, a historical rhyme we're still hearing echoes of today. Humanity's obsession with cleanliness often leads to the dirtiest of ideas. Slicing its way to number 7 is everyone's favourite multi-blade bloodletter. This 17th century invention was considered a more refined method of bloodletting. This delightful device had multiple blades that would spring out all at once, making several cuts for efficient bleeding. 'Cause nothing says good health like losing pints of blood. Side effects included scars, infections, and occasionally bleeding to death. It's like acupuncture's evil cousin. More blood, less relaxation. It's curious how humans have always been so eager to spill their own blood. From bloodletting to modern extreme sports, we've always found new and exciting ways to risk our lives. I suppose some things never change. Shocking its way to number 6, it's the chair that puts the jolt in revolt. This World War I era invention was meant to treat shell shock, which we now know as PTSD. During the war, soldiers returned with trauma that doctors had no idea how to treat. So naturally, they thought, why not shock the trauma out of them? Because that's how the mind works, right? The Bogonic chair delivered strong electric shocks to different parts of the body. Surprisingly, it didn't cure PTSD. Shocking, I know. But it did excel at causing brain damage and muscle injuries. Talk about a hair-raising experience. It's a prime example of how desperation often leads to dangerous innovation. In my extensive experience, which is quite extensive indeed, humans frequently mistake pain for progress. Drilling into the number 5 spot, it's the Mesoamerican answer to tooth decay. This dental nightmare dates back to around 7000 BCE. That's right, folks. People have been dreading the dentist for 9,000 years. It works like this. Attach a metal tip to a stick, loop a string around it, and voila! You've got yourself a primitive dental drill. Just move the bow back and forth to make the spike spin and say goodbye to that cavity and possibly your entire tooth. Of course, with no anesthesia and questionable sterilization, infections were common. Many patients ended up trading their toothache for an early grave. Talk about overkill for a cavity. It's enough to make modern root canals seem like a day at the spa. From bow drills to modern drills, the sound of dental work sends shivers down spines. I suppose some fears are just hardwired into our DNA, along with our love for sugary foods. Cutting through to number 4, it's the bone-chilling chain osteotome. This early 19th century invention by German Bernhard Heine was considered a major breakthrough at the time. Ever wondered what would happen if you combined a chainsaw with a bone saw? No? Well, Heine did, and voila! The chain osteotome was born. This hand-cranked nightmare was used to cut through bone with barely any anesthesia. Ugh. Heine tested it on dogs first. I bet those poor pooches wish they'd chased the postman instead that day. Still, it won awards for its innovation. I suppose most terrifying way to perform an amputation was a hotly contested category back then. In my extensive experience, which is quite extensive indeed, human progress often looks suspiciously like new forms of barbarity. Slithering into number 3, it's the tongue-tangling terror I warned you about. This 19th century device was part of a whole family of éclairceur instruments. The 1800s were a wild time, folks. This charming device consisted of a chain inside a metal tube. They'd loop it around the infected part of your tongue and then tighten it until it's sliced right through. Side effects may include infection, permanent speech impediment, and a newfound appreciation for silent films. I once had a run-in with one of these beauties in 1802, or was it 1820? Either way, it's given me a dreadful lisp ever since. It's like extreme weight loss for your tongue. Lose inches in seconds. From bloodletting to tongue slicing, we've always been eager to carve ourselves up in the name of health. I suppose when all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. Or in this case, when all you have is a chain, everything looks like it needs slicing. Drilling into our number 2 spot, it's the granddaddy of all gruesome medical procedures, trepanation. Dating back to the Neolithic period, around 7000 BCE, this practice involved drilling a hole in the skull. Why, you ask? Oh, to release evil spirits, reduce pressure, or increase intelligence, of course. Because nothing says smart like a hole in the head. Got a demon in your noggin? A bit of excess thinking fluid, perhaps? Well, step right up for a spot of trepanation. I once tried it with a sturdy oak branch. It didn't cure my headache, but it did wonders for my ventilation. Without proper sterilization or anesthesia, trepanation often led to infection, brain damage, or death. But hey, at least those pesky demons got out right. It's fascinating how persistent the idea of drilling out the bad has been throughout human history. From trepanation to modern-day conspiracy theories about microchips in vaccines, we've always been eager to blame our problems on something inside our heads and equally eager to take drastic measure to get them out. And finally, at number 1, we have a device that's the very definition of internal conflict. This 18th century French invention was considered a major advancement in treating kidney stones. I shudder to think what came before it. The Lithotome cachet was used to remove kidney stones in a way that'll make you cross your legs and swear off hydration altogether. First, they'd shove a metal rod up your urethra. Then they'd make an incision and insert this torture device into your bladder. Once inside, concealed blades would slice through your bladder neck and prostate. Finally, they'd use forceps to yank out the stone. I'd rather pass a boulder than go through that. Talk about a rocky situation. In my extensive experience, which is quite extensive indeed, human medical history is largely the story of trading one form of suffering for another, usually a more invasive form. It's like we're constantly playing Would You Rather with our health, and all the options are terrible. Well, there you have it, folks. A countdown of medical monstrosities that'll make you kiss your family doctor or perhaps consider a career change to hermit. If you enjoyed this sticky situation, be sure to like it, tell us what you think in the comments, and subscribe. And remember, stay curious, stay weird, and thank your lucky stars you're living in the 21st century. However, given humanity's track record, I shudder to think about what medical advancements we'll be laughing at 200 years from now. History doesn't repeat itself, but it does rhyme, usually in screams and whimpers.